Happy Monday, everyone. It's me, Jessica Gillen, here with another episode of The Bookseller, your podcast book review show. This week is going to be back to Jessica's critical, rage-inducing book review. That's right, I read a book, I finished a book, and I hated a book. So stay tuned and find out what book it is. This show is brought to you by Eventide Entertainment. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. I hated another mystery thriller. I feel like we've done this song and dance together quite a few times now on the show. Maybe I've learned my lesson, I think, pretty efficiently, or officially, I should say. I don't like mystery thrillers. You know, I used to. I really like horror novels. I love horror movies. I like things to kind of keep me up at night when I'm reading, not just because I'm kind of scared, but I also want to find out the mystery behind everything, which is usually the incentive to read these kinds of books. However, the last few books or so have been extremely underwhelming. I will say, though, now that I've read this one, the book, The Woman in the Window, which I reviewed a couple weeks back, is actually really well done in comparison. I would read that one again over ever picking this book up again. So with all said and do, let's just tell you what the book is. If you follow me on Goodreads, you'd already know, and I wouldn't have to, kind of tease you here a little bit. It is And Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. This is a hardcover novel, 428 pages. It's not too bad, though. It tends to go quick. It was published May 18th, 2018, so it's very new. It is classified as a mystery/psychological thriller. Goodreads has a rating of 4.19, ladies and gentlemen. And Amazon has it at a 4.3, which actually tells me that a lot of people don't like this book on Amazon. Usually Amazon reviews are like 4.8, 4.9. So to see a 4.3 in a book that was just, about 2 months old kind of tells me that maybe there's some people on my side bringing this book down. I don't know. But the Goodreads rating is extremely shocking to me. When I logged in to kind of review this book quickly, I was shocked. There was a lot. And I mean a lot of 5-star ratings for this book. And we'll get into it, but that is disturbing. I just think at this point, I just don't like mystery thrillers anymore. I am over them. I can predict every single one, it seems. The writing might be okay and good in parts, but at the same time, if you're not going to leave some element of mystery, aka what the genre is, mystery, then there's no point in me spending my time reading this. A book that I did enjoy was The Girl on the Train, Gone Girl, even The Woman in the Window. Those actually weren't that bad. They were good. There was some pieces, I might have predicted a majority of it, but there were still elements that were kind of a surprise, where plot devices used that you didn't see coming, that left you guessing for some things. This book, however, no. So let's do a quick description. We'll have the creepy music come in because this is a mystery thriller. And here we go. Then, she was 15, her mother's golden girl. She had her whole life ahead of her. And then, in a blink of an eye, Ellie was gone. Now, it's been 10 years since Ellie disappeared. But Laurel has never given up hope of finding her daughter. And then one day, a charming and charismatic stranger called Floyd walks into a cafe and sweeps Laurel off her feet. Before too long, she's staying the night at his house and being introduced to his 9-year-old daughter, Poppy. Poppy is precious and pretty, and meeting her completely takes Laurel's breath away. Because Poppy is the spitting image of Ellie when she was that age. And now, all those unanswered questions that have haunted Laurel come flooding back. What happened to Ellie? Where did she go? Who still has secrets to hide? So I'm just going to say this right now. Reading that description, if that doesn't tell you even just a little bit of being able to guess the plot, you're crazy. It is written right smack in the description. This is the part that the author writes to entice you, or even the publisher writes to entice you to read the book. You're not supposed to give any kind of detail away. And I just want to say, I am going to apologize if I give away any sort of spoiler, any sort of potential spoiler, we'll even call it, of my review. I'm just so utterly disappointed. So I started reading this book about a couple weeks ago. I didn't really get into it right away at first. It didn't entice me. It was just at the time I was like, I need the time to dedicate to this book to just kind of do in one sitting, 1 to 2 sittings, instead of breaking it up over multiple days. Because mystery and thrillers should be read pretty quickly and all the way through, usually in very short settings. And that's what I decided to do. I waited until I had time to full on dedicate to just reading this entire book in one sitting. I read this book on Friday. I finished this book on Friday. And the last 2 hours I was reading this book, I forced myself to go take a bath. This is usually how I get myself to force myself to read books, is by taking a bath and then I read in the bath. I stayed in that bath for 2 hours, people. I had to refill my tub like 3 or 4 times to maintain a nice comfort level of water. And I finished it. I put my book down and I just was quiet. I was processing. I was thinking. And I honestly didn't want to look at the book. I go downstairs. My boyfriend, he had known I had been up there reading for hours. He was like, "Hey, did you finish the book? How'd it go?" And I hesitated and I said, "It was terrible. That is a terrible, terrible book." And I started raging. I'm not even kidding you. I raged about the book for probably a good 30 minutes. My boyfriend's just staring at me starry-eyed, just like, "Oh my gosh, is she okay?" Like, she seems really upset by what transpired in this book. And the thing is, yes, I was not only disturbed and irritated, but I was just angry at the laziness that the story had in it. And before I give more away, we're going to take a quick break. I know, don't hate me right now. It's only a minute long, and then we're just going to get into this. I may or may not rip it to shreds. I've had 2 days to calm down, so I'm going to try and keep a level head. However, you guys at this point should know me. I might swear and get a little crazy, so get ready. Let's take a break and hear what Eventide has to offer us. I'll see you in a minute.
There's nothing quite as satisfying as a good conversation with intelligent company. Join comedian Don Smith every week as he sits down and talks with comedians, actors, filmmakers, writers, and everyday schmoes. It's The Life with Don Smith, Wednesdays at noon on 106.9 FM, and now available on the Eventide Entertainment podcast feed every Friday on Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes. Wednesdays on Eventide, Robert Yetter and Mike Shea sit down and throw albums at each other, talking about them, picking them apart, ripping them a new one. All different artists, all different genres, all different levels of suckage. It's Track Record, Wednesdays at 9 a.m. on the Eventide podcast feed. For more information, go to eventideent.com.
Holy fucking guacamole. So already starting up with a swear word. So let's talk about this. Let's not just complain about it and say that I hated it. I want to break it down for you, give you the reasons. Let's go through our 3 subjects: plot, characters, writing, and then I'll give you my overall thoughts in the end, and we'll call it a day. This might be a little bit shorter than my normal reviews, but that's literally because I don't have much to say. It was terrible. And the fact that this has so many 5-star, 4-star ratings on Goodreads drives me crazy. Why am I reading? I don't understand. I need to read a good book after this, or I'm going to be in such a slump, it's not going to be good for the show. So let's talk about the plot. So initially, I was kind of predicting what was going on just based on the description on the back of the book, but I was intrigued. And I also was intrigued because when I looked it up at my library, it had almost a 2-month wait just to get your hands on this book. That is crazy to me. So I was thinking, wow, this has a really long wait. That means a lot of people are wanting to read it, or it's a really big buzz novel, and it's a mystery thriller. Maybe this will be a mystery thriller that breaks the curse for me. So I put my hold in on it. It got transferred to a couple libraries for different people, and then finally arrived for me. I picked it up, I started reading it, and I was intrigued. But the problem was I didn't have the time to dedicate to it at that moment. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to put this to the side and give this a full 4 to 5 hour window of just me reading this book, not doing anything else. I didn't game, I didn't eat. I drank some coffee, but that was about it, and took a bath. So I dedicated time to reading this all in one day. So the plot. I was intrigued by it. I kind of predicted what was going to happen, but I still was interested. And the worst part is it starts off with the then and now. So you kind of get scenes from what's happening presently, and then it goes back to past tense, which is okay because she does label it, which helps. But then I feel like as we get further on in the book, it doesn't tell us, one, who is talking. It switches to so many different points of views that are unnecessary, and we don't know who's talking. It takes you at least a page, maybe a page and a half, to be like, oh, it's this person. Okay, somehow we're getting their backstory now of the whole shebang, which in a mystery thriller can be intriguing if you have different point of views, rather than in, a fantasy novel. It might be kind of boring just because it's like they're rehashing the same thing over and over again. Where in a mystery and thriller, it could be interesting if done correctly, because you're going to get their side of the story as to the mystery that is unraveling. However, it was very confusing at times, and it just kind of got a little irritating, especially not realizing who is talking. Is this the present tense? Are we talking about the past tense? And because, we'll talk about this in a second, but the characters, because there was some stuff lacking with a lot of the characters, it was hard to distinguish when one person was talking to another person. It's like she didn't have a different voice to a different character. It was the same. They spoke the same way. It just, yeah. That was the first issue, but that's part of the plot, and it's kind of intriguing in that sense because you kind of get all sides of the story. But about maybe the second, third chapter in, you kind of already know who the players are, who's going to be involved, what's going to happen with Ellie really, really, really early on. Insanely early on. And I get that. Maybe I just kind of have that detective kind of mindset that a lot of us have when we read this genre. But I just felt like there wasn't enough to pull me in and get me guessing. it didn't lead me down white herrings or, down the rabbit hole where I think it's this is what's going to happen, but really it takes a left turn and all of a sudden we're at a different plot. It didn't do that at all. It followed a very linear plot line, didn't really go off of it. There wasn't a lot of character issues. A majority of the book is written from Laurel, who is Ellie's mom's perspective. And it just, it was predictable. It captivated you, and it didn't, I was interested while I was reading it. It was engaging me enough to read. And I think the main reason is because I knew what was going to happen to Ellie. I just didn't know how it was going to happen to her. How did she get taken? How did these things happen to her? And with that said, it's extremely, extremely dark. For those of you that do not like dark novels that get kind of sad and depressed or just kind of really creeps you out, I wouldn't read this because a certain scene in this book is extremely depressing. It is very dark, it is very gruesome. I have read countless reviews and they are saying the same thing. It is a very, very dark book, which can be bad for people that don't like that. It can be good for people that do like it. It was dark in the sense of Ellie. She was probably the only shining star in this whole novel, but everybody else, it just really took away from that. So it was like she almost did it for shock value. Instead of it being just a dark, gruesome novel, it was thrown in there to be a shock moment. And it really did shock me. It was disturbing to read in that moment. So I wouldn't recommend it to people with the faint of heart. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't recommend this book to anybody, but do you, girlfriend, do you. So, yes. I felt like a lot of research in the book, whether it has to do with abductions, kidnappings, what happens when a family loses a child, a mother loses a child. It just felt like it was lacking with a lot of dimensions, as well as the research to how those crimes look, how they take place, just felt like it was really lacking. As if she just wrote it, one day she was on her laptop and she just went with this crazy idea and didn't actually take the time to research into the backstory to kind of flesh out the details. There was I don't want to tell you what it is because it does give away pretty much everything. There was a certain plot turn that occurred that was not explained at all. It was like, they said, hey, this is what happened. This is how it happened. And that in reality is not actually how the world works. That is not actually how that happens. It was just thrown in there almost as a way to fit in with the plot, to fit in with her crazy idea. So research was really lacking, and especially with a crime book, a mystery book, you want to have really good details in that stuff. There's plenty of books written from girls being kidnapped and being held captive, or being kidnapped and being hurt, or escaping. And I've read a good bit of those books. You could have read some of those and actually understood a little bit better of the players and how they interact with each other. So it just felt very blah in that regard. The ending, we'll talk about this in the writing, but what the actual fuck? And I'm swearing already in this review. I think this is like my third time, but what the actual fuck really? That was the worst ending I think I have ever read in an entire book. Plain and simple. It was like it was such a dark and disturbing novel that she wanted to give us some happy ending or something in the end. And it was like thrown together and just kind of tied up in a neat package. And she's like, don't worry, everything works out because this is reality. No, that was terrible. If anything, it kind of creeped me out and made me think like, what the hell? Why did you think that was the perfect ending to this messed up book was to be this perfect happy ending? Some people said it was, it gave them some healing. No, it's not real. It wasn't realistic. If this kind of things happened in real life, that is not what the ending of the story would be. So, again, this is a crime, mystery, psychological thriller. I understand that it's fiction, but with this genre in particular, we do have to take in real reality, life, the world, the way the world works, to be able to make this story make sense, and it doesn't. And the ending is just disgustingly annoying, and I hated it, and it just made me rage so much when I closed that book. I was so unhappy. It left such a sour taste in my mouth. The main villain in the book, and you'll find out who that is really early, very disappointing. Like I said, right away. You start reading this, even if, I guess I can't say that because there's 5-star reviews. There are some people that can predict this. I cannot. What? It's right in front of you the entire time. It's not even something you have to read between the lines sort of mystery. The villain, some weird plot line that happens when she kind of gives up what happened, what transpired. It's after she has a fit of rage. Just crankiness and anger, and blurts out the entire scheme and why she did it. Literally out of nowhere. It was just a way, I felt, lazy writing for the writer to say, okay, now we're going to tell you how everything happened all in this night. Nice, neat little package. Here you go. It's a gift to the reader. We do not need to be spoon-fed information for us to understand the motivations. Yeah, so the villain was just, oh my gosh, I guess we'll talk about the characters here coming up. All right, the characters were one-dimensional. I mentioned that. You don't really understand anyone's motivation. It just really seems, the entire book just seems extremely unrealistic. I'm thankful that this kind of shit doesn't happen, but it was extremely unrealistic and not enjoyable for me. Laurel is the grieving mother. She's trying to find a way to restart back into normalcy after 10 years that her daughter's been missing. You find out very early in the book that her daughter's bones kind of turn up and there's some closure there. She finally feels like, okay, she didn't just run away and there's a chance she'll come home again. No, something happened to her and I need to have closure and kind of move on with my life and raise my other kids who she's neglected this entire time. Laurel, the main character, is extremely annoying. She doesn't listen to her gut. She drags on every question, and she also does a low level of research. Like when something piques her interest and she's like, oh, that's weird. And then she ponders about it, and then she doesn't do anything to figure out why that was weird. Like, she just doesn't care, or I don't know. Ugh. Poppy is the young girl she meets that looks just like Ellie. She is just a strange little kid, and she's going to be extremely messed up in the future if this book was to take realistic points of view. Floyd is the love interest for Laurel that she meets. He kind of comes off likable. He is, though, a little clingy, maybe a little bit more than clingy. Let's say extremely clingy and creepy with certain mannerisms. He almost kind of seems like he's faking his personality, that he's not being his true, genuine self, but not in a malicious way. more like he's hiding a secret and he's trying to figure out the right way to say it, I guess. And honestly, it does kind of seem like he's hiding more than he's letting on. And I think, you know, nothing's ever really explained in that way. Like, there isn't more to Floyd. We find out what his secret is and everything. But at the same time, it's just based on how he was written. He just comes off like mysterious and like there's some other something going on in the underbelow. Like, he has, like, some crazy mental illness of some kind. The ex-husband, Laurel's ex-husband, we don't get barely anything about him. He just apparently is a nice guy. There you go. That's the character development of ex-husband. Ellie, who is the young girl who goes missing, she goes missing when she's about, I want to say, 15 or 16. She's considered the golden child of the family. She was like the youngest daughter, the youngest child, I guess, in the family. It is extremely, extremely dark and disturbing what happens to her. And when you find out everything and you get closure with her, it kind of turns your stomach and is not enjoyable to find out. Was that well done? Yes, but like I said before, it also kind of felt like it was just thrown in for shock value. Noelle, this is Ellie's tutor, and she's a part of the book. She was one of the last people that sees Ellie go missing, and she's creepy and weird and eccentric, I guess. But you get very little character development and you don't really get any information as to why she's this weird, eccentric tutor lady. Like, what is her backstory? You get a little bit, but you do not get enough to to really understand how her mind works. And then we'll finally talk about Hannah, who is actually the older sister to Ellie. She is basically kind of, throughout the book, seemed like the unwanted child, like wanted by her parents, but like she couldn't live up to who Ellie was. And she kind of lives in her sister's shadow, especially after she disappeared. And a lot happens between Hannah and her mom, Laurel. And it's honestly, again, not realistic. There's a lot of animosity, which I can understand from Hannah's point of view, but I can't understand from the mom's point of view. The mom neglected her for years because she was concerned about her daughter that was missing. I get that. But I mean, the mom literally has moments where she's kind of almost wishing that it had been Hannah instead of Ellie. That is sick. And I don't know any mom, hopefully, I mean, there's some messed up people out there. I'm going to say a loving mom that Laurel is supposed to be portrayed as would actually want to trade children out. Like, that's just, ugh. I wish there would have been something where Hannah and Laurel are, like, going to counseling so we can actually see, like, what their progress was with their relationship. Because they kind of do go through some development together. That is probably the most development in the entire story is between Hannah and her mom, which was probably the redeeming quality of the book, was just kind of seeing them in the end, I guess. But yeah, so that was the characters for you. Let's wrap this up with the writing and I'll let you know how I feel. So I will say that she's a very strong writer. I have heard her name before in this genre. Lots of people seem to like her. She has really great plot ideas and, you know, how she intermixes the different characters and who's the different players of the game, basically. But I just felt like it was some really poor execution. Just very much thrown together writing. Yes, it was strong. It kept me engaged, which says something. I didn't like the book, but yet I was still somehow reading. I think another part of my motivation was I didn't want to review another did not finish book for you just right away. But at the same time, like, it wasn't like I was forcing myself to get this down. I really did hope that the way that I predicted everything, that really I was just being led astray the entire time. And when I find out, like, we were just traveling on this linear plot that had no different direction, it really irritated and bothered me. So like I said, she has a really strong following. A lot of people seem to like her. A lot of people seem to like her writing. A lot of people like this book, which just, again, makes me go a little crazy pants, because what the hell? What am I missing that people are seeing in this book? Please, if you read this book and you loved it and you're really angry with me for bashing it a bit, please send me a message on Goodreads, email, something. Tell me what the redeeming quality was for you, because for me, it just was not good. It was not a good book. It felt very thrown together. I felt like the way that she wrapped it up was just so convenient and didn't actually fit what the story should have told. I don't know. In the end, I just was not a fan. It's not my favorite kind of book. Yeah, the writing was strong. It was well done in that regard. I just think that she needs something else that motivates her and gives her like a really great idea. This could have been an interesting concept for a book if it was executed better. And I mean, even in the end, the writer herself says this is either extremely brilliant or bizarre. It was bizarre. I ranted with my friend about this yesterday. It was terrible. I'm sorry. I am so sorry if you like this book. Just know that it's not for me. It felt lazy. There was no really... I mean, I spent 5 hours of my life for nothing. To just be able... well, maybe not for nothing. I was able to read a book so you guys don't have to. I wouldn't recommend this book to anyone, especially those of you that do not like dark and disturbing shit. Not for you, my friend. Not for you. Let me read that stuff and tell you if it's okay for you to read, because yeah. Do not recommend. This was terrible. I am so sorry. So as far as what I'm reading next week, I don't know. I think I'm going to just take some time to look at what's on my shelf, what I have on my library, and really figure it out. I'll probably start reading tomorrow. I just need another day, really. That book really bothered me. It almost made me think maybe I should write a book. If this is a bestseller, if this is what people are rating so highly, I could write a pretty damn good mystery/thriller. I've watched so many crime shows. I'm obsessed with serial killers and learning about them and history. I could come up with a fantastic book. Now, mind you, I probably don't have the time for that right now, but maybe I will, because if this is what is getting 5 stars there out in the book world right now, I am so upset. Ugh. Anyway, that's all for this week. Thank you for listening, and I'll let you know what I'm reading on Goodreads, so make sure to follow me there, as well as give me some feedback, what you like about the show, what you don't like about the show, as well as maybe book recommendations, or has there been a book I've read and you just want someone to talk to about it? There's so many things I could talk to you guys about if I told you spoilers, but I don't, because I'm a nice person. So, you're welcome. I hope everyone has a really great week, and happy reading. Hopefully it's happier than I did.